right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Evernest Real Estate Investor Podcast. I am your host, Spencer Sutton, and today I'm flying solo. Well, not totally solo. I've got a great guest with me. I have Christine Belin back with us. So, Christine, welcome back to the show. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I hear that so I'm in Birmingham, Christine's in Denver, and she is one of our awesome investor agents in Denver. And so, Christine, tell me, we're recording this. It's almost Thanksgiving. How's the weather out in Denver? I heard it was snowing today.
It is snowing today. It's been off and on. It was snowing a few days ago. It was sunny the next day. Now it's snowing again. So typical Denver.
Good. That's good. That's what people love up there. And so I'm so glad you're back on the show. You know, you were on, what do you remember the day that you were back here? I probably should have gone back and looked.
Had to have been an early summer.
I was about to say spring. I was thinking spring. The market was a lot different. The weather was a lot different. There was a lot of things. And actually, even since that first initial conversation, like, you've even been out of the country. I've got to hear, how was Italy?
Oh, it was a dream come true.
Was it? Oh, I bet it was awesome.
Yeah. We went to Florence and Naples, then Amalfi, then Rome. It was amazing. It was a bit of a homecoming for me. I have several ancestors that came over on the boat from Naples, and Florence. So that was really cool.
Yeah, very great.
It was crazy busy. There was a lot going on in those airports, I will say that.
Well, you even had deals going on back here in the States. I know that you even closed a deal while you were on the road, right?
Yep, I closed a deal while I was in Italy. That was one that kind of got drug out a little bit, so we'll talk about that here soon. And then I had another one close right after we got back. So there's deals to be had. So
well, good. Well, listen, what I'd love to do is let's talk about, because when you were on last, we said it was early spring, maybe early summer. Market was a lot different. I would love to hear, because I'm obviously not in Denver, what you're seeing on the market. Like, compare where we were back then to where we are now in the market, and you can talk about anything from like how sellers are feeling, how investors are feeling, what's the financial market doing, deal volume, all that type of stuff. I'd love to kind of get your take on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the past even just 9 months has been pretty crazy. I just to kind of be frank, I work mostly, or lately, it's been shifting, but I had been mostly working with listing properties from our owners in our portfolios.
Yep.
That has really shifted. I still get those calls. We're still sorting that out, but it's this fall, we really shifted into, investors really looking into purchasing, where that wasn't as strong before. There were lots of investors out, but not finding anything. And now there's a lot of them out, and there's a lot of deals being had on the investor side. So I was actually out with some retail buyers at the very beginning of the year, first weekend of the year.
Yeah.
And I had not seen, and I mean, 2021 was crazy. 2017 was a really crazy year here. I had not seen people out on the first weekend of the year driving up prices almost $100K.
Oh my goodness.
And so that was a very interesting wake-up call that this year was going to be a bit crazy. Not that 2021 wasn't.
Right, sure, it was. Yeah, it was.
But so that was really interesting. I had a couple listings this early spring that went kind of as to be expected, where the way you would list properties, you would list it personally, my tactic was to list it a bit moderately, a bit modestly, and get traffic. Let the traffic drive up the offers. You get more people through the door. Present it well. I always talk to my all of my sellers. I would always say, at least put a coat of paint on it. At least get it ready to go. And if you had a turnkey property, they were ready to go. We got multiple offers. I had a property up in Brighton that closed, normal situation, like 4 days on the market, closed 30 days later. We had about 5 offers. Actually, one was an investor, an institutional investor, which I was a bit
Wow.
surprised to see, because we hadn't been seeing a ton of institutional investors in the Denver area. It just, the margins weren't quite there. That was certainly going on, just not heavy. So I was, and this is a single family home, not a condo or townhome,
Right.
up in Brighton. We got 35K over, or 30K over asking, 5 offers. That was kind of average as to what was going on at that point.
Yeah. So
I
let me
listed a
ask you.
condo.
Let me
Go
ask
ahead.
you this. Yeah, let me ask you this real quick, because I'm thinking about the sellers, and I'm thinking, we saw over the past 3 years, probably 2020, 2021, because it was such a hot sales market, just what you mentioned, you had investors and people from our portfolio reaching out to you and saying, hey, I'd like to sell. My property just went vacant. I don't want to rent it again. I'm ready to sell it. And so it was easy to do. And so now what you're saying is you're not getting as many of those, and so what we're starting to see kind of on a macro level in all of our markets is people not being able to sell their houses quick. And so they're like, oh, I might rent my house. I'm not going to sell it. And also think about this, Christine, we were talking around the office, and some of these people have, 3% mortgages. They don't want to sell that house and then go get a 7% mortgage on another.
Mortgage.
Yeah. So they're just saying, I'll rent it and I'll rent something else until rates come down, or I'll do whatever. You're seeing some of that in Denver?
Interestingly enough, right before I flew out, I ran over to a property to help out one of my coworkers, and met them to onboard them as one of our rental properties. They had their property listed for 3 months on Open Door and could not sell. And so we are now renting it. So I am hearing that all over the place now, just as you were saying. It's kind of typical to see at this point things sit on the market for 2 to 4 weeks. But when it gets past that month, unless you're doing some dramatic price drops, you're not really going to get the traction, and you probably should kind of start to shift into that saving the property and renting it out and doing that sort of strategy you're talking about.
Or potentially sell it to an investor at a discounted rate. So are you seeing sellers? Because I know I would just imagine if I were selling property back over the past couple of years, you kind of have your expectations of what you think your property's worth. And now when you're not getting those offers, I think that there's a period of time where people are just kind of staying stuck and staying stubborn, not in a bad way. They're saying, hey, listen, this is what I think it's worth. I'm not going to go down below. But then eventually, as the weeks turn into months, I think that we'll start seeing people go, you know what, I'm going to drop this. Like, the market is telling me something.
Absolutely. We're seeing things kind of go, not necessarily fully revert back, but we're seeing like 2020, 2019, more, I would say 2019 prices before we saw this crazy. 2020 was kind of, who knows?
Right.
And so you got some really good sales, you got some really good deals. It just depended on what the motivation was behind
right,
it.
that's right. There's a lot going on in the world at that point.
Absolutely. And then 2021, things just took off and skyrocketed. And I think we're coming back down to reality a little bit. Now, 2019 was still a great year here. There was a lot of increases. Things have been steady since 2014, 15 in increases. But when you think about, what's happening now, it's almost like we just kind of took a step back to 2019 and those types of pricings.
Gotcha. So yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to mention, I had a sale that we listed back in August, and it was pretty interesting because I got no traffic at all the first weekend, and that was priced pretty modestly. And it was interesting on Monday, Tuesday, because I always list on a Wednesday, Thursday. So went through the weekend, and then I got 4 or 5 calls on Monday from agents just asking, did you go under contract? Are things going well? Kind of dipping
They're
their toes
fishing for
back
more
in.
information, right?
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
we got an offer that same day. We had 2 showings, got an asking price offer, and we just said, you know what, we're just going to take it, close it up. So
Yeah.
it worked out well for my client, and he's an investor, so he understands what's going on. And to get an asking price, we said, let's just move forward. But you're going back to, buyers being able to ask for things at inspection, buyers, having more contingencies is more normal again. So you're seeing more to those offers. They're not as clean as they were at the peak of everything in 2021.
So the real question then, Christine, is what is that investor who sold that property? What is he going to do with those funds?
So he actually was having a business acquisition. So he
Gotcha.
has that tied up elsewhere and had plans for that income. Now that's not his only property. And he's got properties in a few different places. So we actually discussed potentially going back out there and finding another property for him to either buy and hold or potentially even flip next summer.
Gotcha. Interesting.
So yeah. I'm seeing a lot of people, if they are wanting to sell, they're still wanting to cash in. They've missed that peak, but they still realize, hey, they bought back in 2010. They're still going to make quite a bit,
Yeah. They're still going to kill it. They're still going to kill it.
Yes. But then we're talking strategy on the other side. I have to say, you have to consider these interest rates, especially if there's already a tenant placed.
Right.
If that tenant and the rent you're getting might make sense for what you're paying for your mortgage and where your numbers are at. But when you have that increase plus the interest, you have to consider that on an investor side, on the other side. So just having that reality check, I guess, is the best way to put it, has been kind of interesting in terms of having those conversations. People aren't delusional, though. They understand the interest rates are kind of crazy.
Right.
To that same extent, I thought it was kind of interesting. They peaked last month, but they've also already come back down about 0.5 point. So
where is the interest rate right now?
6.62.
Okay.
For 30-year fixed.
For 30-year fixed, and right now we're a week before Thanksgiving. Just for anybody who's listening, that's when that is.
Now just back October 3rd, at the very end of October, it was up almost 0.5 point above that, and it peaked at 7.37, I believe.
Oh wow, yeah.
So it's come, and that was in mid-October.
Yeah.
So even in just a month, it came down 0.75%.
Yeah, that's a good drop.
Yeah.
That's a good drop. We're seeing the same thing in Nashville. Nashville's not far from where I am in Birmingham, and it has a lot of areas just like Denver, the Brentwoods, the Franklins, and for investors who have held these properties for 10 to 12 years, they are still sitting very, very, very pretty right now. They're it's okay. They're doing okay. Their rents have, doubled, and the value of the home has tripled. So it's been good for them. Not really, but it's a lot like places in Denver.
Absolutely. I think the more interesting thing when I have these conversations with potential sellers is finding out if they did anything interesting on their finance side. So they may have taken out, another mortgage or refinance to take money out. So they aren't sitting in as great of a place as they could be. So it really just depends on how they've handled that property over the years. But it's getting to that time of year where I'm getting calls from investors that really need to place their money somewhere in a property before the end of the year.
Right.
So that's also come into play.
So
or somebody
where are
needing
you
to sell.
taking these? Where are you taking these investors if they're calling you and saying, "Hey, I've got this money and I need to place it before the end of the year." Like, where are you all looking? Where are you taking them?
I like to comb the expired listings, especially at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got a lot of, as we were saying earlier, overzealous sellers, thinking they have, you know, gold when they've got fool's gold instead. So there's I love to comb the expired listings to see if there's anything, make those calls, see if something can be sorted out. It might just be they didn't want to leave it on the open market. They got tired of it, that sort of thing. So that's one of my favorite resources.
Yep.
I also really love to go out and check out properties that just have the front photo because a lot
Right,
of people
because it
don't
may
take
be
the
a
time to
fixer
do that.
upper. As maybe a
Yeah.
fixer upper. Yeah, they don't want to show the whole thing because it needs too much work. So I'm just going to show the front of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's gonna have, those could be a Pandora's box, but it also could be a great property with great bones that, the right investor can
Mm-hmm.
put the time and energy into. And think about it, you don't have a lot of vendors working a lot right now. They're all looking for work as well. So this is a great time to have a more reliable contractor come in and get the work done, get it ready. February, March is a great time to rent a property out.
Yep.
That's kind of when the push starts into the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get all that closed out before the end of the year, take January to get your rehab done, January, February, get it listed in March. You're sitting in a good place.
Yeah, if you can rent it April, May every single year, that's fantastic. Or every time it goes vacant, if you can rent it
Mm-hmm.
that little time frame in the summer, spring and summer is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what about I was just thinking about what about off-market deals? Are there a lot of those out there right now? Because I know that in other markets that we've been watching, we've seen a lot of wholesalers that had tons of business and they were able to sell stuff no matter what. And then all of a sudden their institutional investors went away. They've slowed way down and stopped in
Mm-hmm.
many instances. And some of the other bigger buyers have slowed down. So now they're looking for like they're calling real estate agents, they're calling brokers and saying, "Hey, I've got houses if you have investors." Are you seeing that in the market in Denver?
Yeah, I'm getting those calls all the time. I am also getting the other side of it of homeowners wanting to sell their investment properties. The biggest problem we're running into is that the kind of like I mentioned earlier, that the price point that they're at in terms of the rent they're receiving
Right.
versus their mortgage when you include in the HOA, because a lot of these properties are condos, HOA, or townhomes that have been held, and that those I've honestly noticed that the HOAs have gone up a lot recently as well.
Hmm.
It's like a lot of them had to do assessments, get loans,
Yeah.
that sort of thing recently, which drove up those costs. So when you kind of piece all those together, we love to circulate those offline, but they don't always come off with the numbers looking right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you really need to, like, I have an investor, as I mentioned, that needs to, purchase something before the end of the year. Like, well, if you can take this property with the tenant in it and manage that, this is actually a lower price point. You could have them vacate at the end of their lease next year. If you
Right.
can eat that for now, you can do some updates to the property, get a much better rent in a year, and you'll be all the better for it because your investment will be great at the end of this. You just might have to eat a little bit on the
Sure.
front end.
It's like any multifamily investor who's doing some type of value add strategy where they're, as the people vacate the multifamily, they're going in there and renovating the properties. I know some investors will like have everybody move out and redo the whole thing at once. But yes, well, you can still do the same thing with a single family. You can kind of eat it for a little bit and you don't have to renew the lease when it
Right.
comes up at the end of the lease term.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you can make the numbers with the HOA and what your ARV is going to be and your rent at the end of that, what that's going to be, then if that makes sense, then make the leap now while you're not fighting 10 other investors for the same
Right.
property. Um, I I think those are where the opportunities lie.
Mm-hmm.
You always want to plant a seed in a recession and then it'll grow after the fact. So I think this is the best time to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, what I've been talking to investors about is just listen, if you find a home that you like and you're ready to pull the trigger, make the offer that makes sense to you, right? The seller
Right.
does not have to take the offer if they don't want to,
Exactly.
but it starts the conversation and you
Right.
don't ever know. Like if you're the investor, you have no idea the underlying motivation, how badly somebody wants to get rid of a property.
Mhm.
Back when I was buying and selling houses, we would make 30 and 40 offers every month and we would buy 4 houses. So a
Yeah,
lot of them got declined. A lot of them, they said, nope, nope, but it was a numbers game for us. And so
sure.
it can absolutely still be that way because I think as,
Yeah.
as, as time kind of goes on, you may see sellers again, kind of just get hit with a little bit more reality. And I do think you have a lot of investors who are sitting on the sideline waiting. I'm just saying, I'm waiting. I'm going to wait till, it gets a little bit
Yeah.
softer, and then I'm going to start making offers. But I think you can still scoop stuff up right now at a really good rate.
Holidays is my favorite time to shop with investors or buyers and anybody who's trying to buy. It's my favorite time to work with them because nobody else is out there looking, and the people who are get the deals.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's good. Um, so do you think? I mean, I'm what I'm hearing is that still a good time to invest in Denver. I mean, do you? You have your boots on the ground. You see everything. You are listening to people in the market. Like, do you think that one of the questions that we asked back in 2019 when we were entering the market was, is Denver in a real estate bubble?
Mhm.
And the answer was no. So what do you think right now? Is Denver in a real estate bubble?
I don't think that it's in a bubble. I think it's going to sort of normalize a little bit.
Gotcha. Yep.
I don't think there's going to be anything drastic that happens. I think we will see some changes, some waves, right? I mean, but that's cyclical. That's always normal. I don't think we're going to see anything super drastic. I think we're going to see some normal prices that we might have seen maybe a few years ago. I think, which is not that far off from where we are now. It's just there
Right.
was that crazy kind of wave last year and
Mm-hmm.
this spring. But I even saw it slowing down even in the midst of, May, April. We weren't seeing what we saw in 2021.
Right.
We were
Right.
seeing a handful of offers versus 20 offers.
Yeah.
Um, so I just think that that boom kind of went away, and I think things are going to normalize a little bit. We
Yeah.
might see some values dip a little bit, but I don't think so. What was happening a lot during 2022 spring and 21 is that we were seeing a lot of high prices, but we were seeing a lot of appraisal guarantees. So
Mm.
people were paying cash over that appraisal. So I don't think we're going to see upside down mortgages like we saw in 2008.
Yep.
I
Right.
think we're going to see maybe kind of drop down to where it was appraised at,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. I agree with that. I like the thought of normalization because I think that's what it is. It's just like, hey,
Yeah.
we're just going to get back to normal, which is a great market, plenty of
Hmm.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Rents, there's more demand for rent now than ever before. So it's not like
Yeah.
you're going to be sitting there with a glut of vacant properties. You're still going to be able to rent these things. And we're seeing that all across the country. So our still like here we are right before Thanksgiving, and our median days on market is 24. So
Yeah.
we're renting properties very, very quickly.
I am seeing a little bit of oversaturation, but I'm still
Mm-hmm.
seeing those people who weren't able to buy are renting. So
Yep.
I think it's just that kind of space in between
Mm-hmm.
where the realization of we can't buy, we need to rent is
Yep.
happening.
That's right. Yeah.
And we can't sell, we need to rent
That's right.
is
We're going to
happening.
rent our property and then we're going to go rent something
Right.
until we're ready to buy something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and anybody being displaced by, jobs in another state or another area, we're seeing them, like you're saying, hold on to that property instead, rent that out. So it's just kind of a shift in who's renting what and who is renting their home out,
Gotcha.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
A
It
lot of
does.
rent going on in
That's
there.
right. There, listen, there was a lot of selling going on. Now there's a lot of renting going on, but awesome. Well, this has been good. Christine, anything else you want to talk about?
I would just say if you are on the fence, start pulling the trigger, make some offers. It's a great time to get that investment property. If you can make those numbers work, make an offer where you're comfortable and see where it goes. No, there's no time like the present.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's great. And how can somebody get in touch with you if they wanted to talk to you specifically about Denver?
You can give me a call or shoot me a text on my number. It is 720-507-7655. Feel free to reach out to me. You can also text me to set up a time to chat and we can discuss your buy box or how I can help you reach your real estate goals.
And listen, people, when you're listening to this, Christine was still working in Italy, so you can reach her at any time for anything. No, I'm kidding. I hope you.
You certainly can. I will always pick up the phone.
Well, no, I'm glad you got some time away and had a great time in Italy. I think you went with your husband, so
Yep.
that's
Yeah,
awesome
our
to have you
1-year
back.
anniversary. It was
Oh,
wonderful.
good. That's right. You did tell me that. Yeah. Well, awesome. Wow, what an anniversary. I'm not going to tell my wife about that one, but maybe later. All right, Christine,
maybe later.
thanks for being on the show. And we're going to have you back again. I always love to check in with Denver. Next time we'll bring Gray on the show and also see what he's
actually
hearing.
sold his house this summer.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Good. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, we got to have him back on. Well, thanks a lot, Christine, and we'll be back.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're interested in speaking with Christine about Denver, look her up, give her a call, text her, schedule a call, and we'll be back next week with another episode of the Evernest Real Estate Investor.